world. Erica from Collective Commons back again for another week of checking in to see how is your journey with the artist way going. So, of course, always starting with those morning pages. How many days did you do them? No shame. I'm not actually keeping track, but just for you to notice. So how's that going? And also your artist date. So I think I probably told you this last week, but I am having a bit of a time with that. I feel like at the end of the week, I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, that thing that I did, that was an artist date. So there's that. I think this week for my artist date will have been painting my nails and cutting more bangs, because that's fun, right? This is something I haven't done in like years and years and years. So any little thing counts. Okay, so this week we are talking about week 6 of the text, which is recovering a sense of abundance. Abundance is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, right? And not surprisingly, we're talking about money in this week. So a little bit of a dive into God again. We definitely talked about this in the study group that the author comes from a very 12-step program kind of background, and also this, the God thing can get a little heavy for folks. So again, just remembering that God is easily replaced with source, spirit, good orderly flow, good orderly direction, whatever works for you. But I think that there's definitely some things in here to check out. So loved the prompt of in your morning pages, right? Like we had talked about before, if you're feeling stuck in your morning pages, it's okay to put some prompts in there to help you so that you can get those brain juices flowing in the morning. So you can write about the God that you believe in and or the God that you would like to believe in. That's a great prompt to work through if you have not already. There was a lot of talk about, that God, source, spirit is abundant. There's no, it's limitless, right? He, she, they, it, limitless. So one of my favorite parts of this was looking at God's creation. It's pretty clear that the creator itself did not know when to stop. There is not one pink flower or even 50 pink flowers, but hundreds. Snowflakes, no two alike. So, my go-to whenever I need a little more guidance is to revert back to, well, what happens in nature? What happens in nature most of the time is that there's limitless leaves, blades of grass, grains of sand, the whole deal. So abundance is all around us if we choose to notice it. So if you're ever feeling that scarcity mindset come in, go outside, try to count all the leaves on a tree, try to count blades of grass, let yourself be filled with the wonder and the amazement that you are surrounded by abundance. The world is inherently, naturally abundant. So another thing that I loved, that creativity is not and never has been sensible. Of course, we love that. Remember, you are the cheapskate, not God. And let's see, I underlined this part. What we really want to do is what we are really meant to do. And when we do what we are really meant to do, money comes to us, doors open for us, we feel useful, and the work feels like play. So this leads into something that was so interesting because before our study group started, I was talking about, just a lot of times I get stuck in my own head, right? All air, a lot of mental processes, kind of forget to take care of the body and bring the body along as well. And so I was talking about I was going to have the luxury of scheduling a massage. And then before we started study group, we pulled a card, and we pulled an animal spirit card, and we pulled the elk, which is this very kind of earthy, kind of patriarchal, giving, just this energy, which really seemed to line up with, like, just kind of grounding down, getting back into our bodies. And so we had a lot of talk about the luxury part. And so allowing ourselves luxuries, right? Like someone was talking about blackberries are like kind of $5-6 a pint. Like they didn't let themselves share in that, which is I think in the book she's talking about raspberries, but that sparked something for somebody else too, right? Like you're allowed that luxury, fresh fruit. Like get on that. You know, allow yourself simple things, right? Like luxuries do not have to be yachts and exotic vacations. They can be really small, simple things like, you know, getting a really nice vegan cookie for a treat, or also inviting you to like think of things not in terms of money or things that you have to buy, right? Like luxury can be outside of that realm. So a luxury might be taking a long hot bath. A luxury might be, you know, giving yourself a day off to stay in bed and sleep. A luxury might be cooking a really, really lovely meal for yourself, or, just taking some time, or, busting out the fancy dishes to have your dinner on. A lot of us, I know I do, have things that like we save for special occasions. Like today can be a special occasion, tomorrow can be a special occasion. Decide what the occasion is and use the nice stuff, right? Like you deserve it. So I think that was something that was really great. A lot of the times we are focused on others at the expense of ourselves. So I thought that was a really interesting concept too. Creative living requires the luxury of time, which we carve out for ourselves, even if it's 15 minutes for quick morning pages or a 10-minute mini bath after work. Creative living requires the luxury of space for ourselves, even if it's just a corner of a room, a shelf, one single shelf, a little shoebox where you're keeping things that are important to you, like giving yourself some space, making sure that you notice when you're using words like, oh, this is silly, or this is, kind of dumb, or whatever that is, because it's not silly. Silly's the point, right? Silly's where creativity lives. So we love that. So this is the week of the counting exercise where you're supposed to count every little bit of money that you spend every day. This might be a little bit different in current times. I know for myself personally, we were talking about this in study group, that if this were a year and a half ago, this would have looked a lot different than what it might look like now. So still an exercise worth trying. There was also the money madness exercise where you complete the following phrases. So personally, I felt that some of the phrases were a little bit leading, like the author was just assuming that I was going to go into that negative headspace. So if you've ever done any kind of like shadow work about money, money wounds, that kind of stuff, you may have felt the same way that I did about this. If not, these might be, I still did them. I still found them really, really interesting. And, despite I've done shadow work with money. I've done money workshops. I've done money courses, but there is still some really ingrained shit in there. And that's something we talked about in study group too, is like, these things like, to get more money, I need to work harder. That's a lie. I know that's a lie, but it still came out when I was writing. So just noticing these things though, right? Like this is a practice, and this is something that you can come back to again in a month, in a year, and see how things have changed with you. So anyway, if you found that exercise a little bit leading, you're not alone. The tasks this week were really, really great because great but not great. There's not as much like journaling, like writing. It's really going out and doing things. So going out, finding some stones, picking flowers, throwing stuff away, doing a little purging, baking, like all great things. So that's that. That's what the insight was. Yeah, send some postcards to somebody, write somebody a letter, um, bake yourself a cake, make a soup if you're not doing sugar. Um, Give yourself the luxury of some free time, right? Like, see if you can allow yourself to guilt free let yourself just do something you enjoy for any amount of time. You really, really deserve it. So, sending you the best, and always want to hear about how your journey's going. Let me know. You know where to find me or in the comments below. And until next week.